back to another video with fishing for a reel. Today I'm going to be talking a little bit about frog fishing. Now it's still, actually while I'm shooting this video, it's still not even spring yet really. Today's just one of the few nice days that we've had, and but I probably won't upload this until I start frog fishing in mid to late spring. But so frog fishing, just going to talk a little bit about it and when I start fishing frogs, how early I'm going to start fishing frogs, and kind of the gear, and maybe a little bit about walking a frog. So anyway, for the gear, first of all I'll talk about the frog. That frog right there is a River to Sea Boliwa 2, a new frog I'm trying out this season from Tactical Bassin, Matt and Tim over there. They're the ones that always use this frog, so I've been wanting to pick them up for a couple of years now, but every time it comes around to be frog season, they're out of them. They're out of stock, especially in this color here. It's a brown top with a chartreuse bottom, and I've really wanted to try it for a long time, but they've always been out of stock in them every time I go to order them. So during the winter, finally had a chance to order some, and these frogs, they're awesome. I've had a chance to come out here and play with them today, even though it's a little cold. It's still cold today for the fish to be hitting them, but just tried it, and they walk really, really well. I really love the style they are. They're a little bit bigger, beefier frog, big beefy hooks on there. Really nice frog. So the frog rod I'm going to be using this year, 7'6". That's a Powell Inferno 7'6", mag heavy, fast action. This is actually the swim bait model. It's actually designed for small swim baits. It's 3/8 to 3 ounces. So it's designed for like your small, maybe like a small Huddleston, or like a little glide bait, S-Waver 168, Gantarel Junior swim bait, smaller swim baits, 6-7 inch glide baits. That's what it was really designed for. But it's actually a great, I don't know if you can see the bend, a great jig and frog rod for flipping jigs and throwing frogs. And I'm going to be testing this out as well this year. So 7'6" in length for a frog rod. I'm going to go heavy action rod is what I was going to recommend. Something between 7 foot, 7'6". If you're a shorter guy, 7 footer is going to work better, because when you're working it with the tip down, you're going to be able to keep the tip down lower to the water. It's going to help you walk the frog. If you're a little taller like me, I'm around 6 foot. A 7'3" or 7'6" doesn't bother me, especially out of a boat where you're raised up a little bit off the water. If you're on the bank, it's a little harder, maybe a shorter rod as well. So if you're a bank fisherman, shorter rods usually tend to be better, or out of a kayak. But so a heavy action rod, somewhere between 7 foot, 7'6". For line, I go 50 to 65 pound braid. Usually I'm going to stick with 50. I usually do not have a problem fishing 50 pound braid, just because I've never broken a fish off. A lot of guys say to move up to 65, but I fish thick lily pads and grass, and I've never really had a problem with 50. I did go up to 65 last year just because I was fishing heavy stuff, but the only disadvantage with that heavy line, the reason I dropped back to 50, is you can't cast it. The 50 pound, you can get a lot more casting, cast it a lot better, especially with a good reel like this. You don't want to buy a super nice reel but then take away its castability. This is on here, that's a Shimano Curado, and you don't want to put something like that and and fill it with some line that you're not going to be able to cast with, because the whole point of me buying an expensive reel like this, or a decent amount of money, spending a decent amount of money on a reel, is so that way I can get a good cast with it. And if I have that super heavy line, you're just not going to be able to cast with it. Sorry, the sirens in the background. But you're just not going to be able to cast with it. So that's why I dropped down to the 50. It's as low as I would go though. I wouldn't go anywhere lower than 50 pound. This is Power Pro. And then that reel, like I said, is a Shimano Curado. Something when I'm frog fishing, I like to cover water doing it. I like to work my frog fairly fast and cover water. So a faster reel, gonna be able to pick up line quicker, and I can easier to get those fish out of cover faster, be able to crank those fish, and so this is a great reel for that, the Shimano Curado. So anyway, so walking a frog, how I work a frog. So walking a frog, a lot of people only say to walk a frog in open water. And that's true, but it's also not true. Because if you're skipping this around docks and things, and you're walking, that's a great time to walk it. Open water around docks, maybe a grass line or the edge of lily pads, which is more open water, it's going to be great. It's going to be a lot easier to walk. But what I do is I fish it in the lily pads and in mats, and a lot of times I'll just reel it or just kind of bob it, just keep my tip kind of up and just kind of bob it and reel it through. And if I get to an opening, a lot of times in the lily pad fields there's little openings, or in the grass there'll be openings. Then I'm going to drop my tip down and I'm going to start getting that thing to just kind of walk. And how you walk a frog is you basically keep your rod real low to the water. You can get good at it and walk with your rod up high, but your rod real low, get your line laying on the water, and you're going to use your rod to throw slack at your frog. So you're gonna twitch it, and I'm gonna twitch it and let it go back. So I'm twitching it like this. Right, I'm pulling it and letting it go back. Hopefully you guys see. So here's my finger as the rod. You're gonna twitch, and when you twitch, you don't pull and stay. You pull and go back. So you twitch like this, right? So what you're doing is you're pulling the frog and throwing slack at it. Pulling the frog, throwing slack at it. And that is how you walk a frog. A lot of times what happens is they get the frog to only go one way, right? So walking the frog, you want the frog to go back and forth. A lot of times people will only get the frog to go one way. They'll get it and they will kind of jerk off like this to one side. And what that's causing is you're pulling too hard. You want to when you pop that rod, it's going to pull that line, and when you bring the rod back, it's going to throw slack. It's going to pull it and then throw slack, and that slack is what's going to help it turn the other way. So it's going to get walking back and forth. I'll do more in depth one day when I have the ability to do it on the water. Maybe I'll try and do a more in depth video on how to actually walk it. But I mean, that's basically what you do. You just tap, 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 tap. And I don't know if you can see, but I'm actually throwing slack at the camera. And so you want slack in your line. You're using that slack to throw around the rod. You want to reel as well, because you don't want too much slack. If you have too much slack, it's going to be hard to walk it. But if you don't have enough slack, it's not going to walk. So you don't want to reel too much, so I'll kind of pop it. Like, you kind of do it as you're popping your rod. And you get the hang of it. I mean, go out there. The best way to walk a frog is to get something super easy to walk. What I started out with, I could never walk a frog until I got one of those hollow body sunfish, the live target hollow body sunfish. And I'm going to leave everything, and I'm going to be trying to do this on all my videos, leaving everything in the description. The frogs, the rod, the reel, everything I'm talking about down in the description, so you guys can go check it out. I'll leave a link to it. And basically, the frogs that are designed for walking, like the hollow body sunfish, they have one that's called, like, I don't even know what it's called, so basically just like a stick. Those frogs are designed for walking, and they walk very well back and forth. You basically have to have no effort to make them walk. And so that's what I recommend starting out with, just to get the feel for it, and just start doing that little tap, 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 and getting the feel for it. Because I could never walk a frog until I picked up one of those, started doing that, went out in the water, started doing it, and then I got really good at it. Then I tied on a regular frog, and I could walk it no problem. So if you're going to learn how to walk a frog, that's what I recommend doing. Getting a frog that's made for walking, a frog that's going to walk really easy. I'll leave a couple in the link. Leave some of those frogs that are easy to walk down in the description as well. And that's what I recommend doing. And so, when I'm going to pick up a frog is, going into spring. It's going to be when the water temperatures get in the higher 50s, 58, 59, 60 degrees. When the water temperatures, rising from 58, that's when I pick up a frog. And they don't always necessarily, when the water's still warming like that, they're not necessarily going to commit to a frog a lot of times. Kind of like throwing a big swim bait. they're just going to show themselves. So I could be throwing it around even colder sometimes. I even started picking a frog, throwing it around when the water's 55. That's when I have a frog rod with me. Am I going to throw it all that much? Probably not, but when the water's 55, that's when I'm going to bring a frog with me. Start bringing the frog rod and the frog box. And I'll just throw it around. I'll go, around shallow cover with a fish, going to be moving up to spawn, and be throwing it around, walking it. And those fish will come up and they'll slash at it. And then oh, there's a fish there. So you can have a 3-pounder blow up on it and then be like, oh, there's a fish there. Pick up your Senko and pitch a Senko in there and catch them. And that's how I use the frog in the early spring. And I kind of go from there. I just keep fishing it, and eventually, instead of swiping at it, you're going to have fish that start taking it. And then that's when it really gets good, when the fish actually start taking it down instead of just swiping at it. And that's when the frog fishing gets really fun. So thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next video.